Did we knock the shows that we saw? Well, let's see. Let's start with Paula Ibrahim's A Knock on the Roof at New York Theater Workshop, which shows that practice doesn't always make perfect. I'm sorry if I'm butchering people's names. Miriam lives in Gaza while her husband is away studying and keeps calling her relentlessly. She lives with her exacting mother and 6-year-old son when a third war is declared. She knows the routine by now. There will be a small bomb first, a knock on the roof, which signals her that she has 5 minutes to evacuate from her 7th floor. She takes to packing and unpacking bags and running with them to see how far she can go. Next step is to approximate the weight of her son to carry him with the bags and see how far she can run now. It is not easy living in a place that is constantly under threat. Electricity is spotty and is needed for the water pump to work, to make coffee, take a shower, clean dishes. Unfortunately, I had trouble understanding Kaula's Ibrahim's accent, which was coincidental as I just saw English, where an Iranian class was trying to learn English and downplay their accent to be understood better. It got confusing after a while as I wasn't sure if she really heard the knock or was she still practicing. She finally got her mom and son to join her with various scenarios. With the Gaza war in our mind right now, this is a very relevant play, but I just couldn't picture what was going on. One cool directorial bit from Oliver Butler was the projected shadows on the wall. I wish there had been more projections to help us picture what was going on better. Ms. Ibrahim is an engaging performer, including the audience for advice and comments, but I still have to give this a mixed face. Happy for the actress, but not so happy for the play.
You see, the thing is this, for me, actually, it was very confusing from the very beginning. Not only her accent a little bit, I first of all thought she was mic'd and was too loud. And then there was some strange echo in the room, and it was a bit confusing. But that is not the only confusion. I wasn't sure if she's just practicing this drill or it's really happening. It took me a while to understand that. And my difficulty with the beginning of with my confusion was she's too relaxed if the bomb is already knocking at the roof, right? But then I understood it's just a drill. So, like Eva said, she packs her bag, she puts her photos, family photos. She likes to have some facial cream with her and all that stuff. And then she wants to find out if her son, how much her 6-year-old son Noor would weigh. And then she put like books in a pillow cover and carries that few times. And she repeats this drill many times, and she goes out of the building. It says staircases. Then she has a friend named Yasmin who lives on the 3rd floor. She's worried about her survival. Then she runs with all those things, carrying her son, and I mean, giving us the impression as if she's carrying her son and all that stuff. But for me, there was another problem. I thought I did not feel she was in Gaza. I did not feel that there was a war going on, though I know. I mean, we've been watching this war, this not exactly that very war she's talking about, for the last 1 year. And it is a very, very sad situation. And she was like breaking the fourth wall. And then she cracked some jokes. Even she talked to somebody whose phone rang, said, "Can I take your phone?" So for me, the atmosphere of that tragic, the struggle to survive, to merely survive, was a little bit lessened. And I wanted to feel more for her and more for the people who lived in that city and for their incredible, difficult life. But I could not. But at the same time, I think it was a good idea for her to do this show. She wrote it, she's performing. Oliver Butler was a good director, and I agree with Eva about the shadows on the wall. It was a wonderful, beautiful thing to see. It seemed like there were movements, it seemed like there were more than one person there. So lots of things were good. But the story in itself, I think, should be taken a little bit more seriously. I know Eva thinks that it should lighten up a little bit for the audience because it's such a heavy subject matter, but it is heavy, and it has to be dealt with honestly, with honesty, with that heaviness, and not worry about how people should enjoy or not enjoy. This is not the piece for us to enjoy. This is the piece for us to feel for humanity and their survival and their difficulty in life. So I give mixed face. I mean, it's a good effort, but it's a mixed face for me.
William Shakespeare's Cymbeline from NAATCO has gotten a coherent modern verse translation by Andrea Thome of this convoluted tale of steadfast love, betrayals, misunderstandings, banishments, duplicitousness, cross-dressing, and divine intervention. Cymbeline the king is ruled by his duplicitous queen, who wants her oafish son Claughton to marry the king's daughter Imogen. The queen wants all the power, so she pretends to be Imogen's friend and ally. The queen even goes so far as to get the soothsayer to give her poisons to get Pisanio, who is loyal to Imogen and Posthumus, out of the way. One problem. Imogen loves and has married Posthumus, who has now been banished for going against the king's wishes, who also wants Claughton to marry his daughter. Posthumus ends up in Italy and gets into an argument with the slimy Iachimo, who claims nobody is as pure and virtuous as Posthumus claims Imogen to be. Iachimo bets Posthumus the diamond ring that Imogen gave him that Iachimo could seduce Imogen. Posthumus poo-poos him. Ostensibly, Iachimo goes to the court of Cymbeline with letters for Imogen from Posthumus. He tries to convince her that Posthumus is unfaithful to her, so she should take her revenge by sleeping with him. Imogen is outraged and tells him off. Not to be deterred, Iachimo devises a nasty scheme to make Posthumus think that he won the bet by showing him the bracelet, which he stole, that Posthumus had given Imogen, and other slimy details. Posthumus of Little Face believes Iachimo and orders his loyal servant Pisanio to kill Imogen, but Pisanio is loyal to Imogen and devises a plan for her to escape to Wales as a male. There she ends up with Belarusius and his two sons. Meanwhile, Caius Lucius comes from Rome to demand 3,000 ducats. Cymbeline refuses and declares war on Rome, because you can't have a Shakespeare play without a battle of some sort. Will all these various issues be resolved into a happy ending for one and all? Will the bad guys get what is coming to them? You know what I find interesting? At the supposed weaker sex, Imogen sees through the lies and unfailingly trusts Posthumus while he is led astray, and his solution is violence. The all-female cast were exceptional. It was easy to discern who were the males and who were the females. As you know, I am not a lover of Shakespeare, but I was mesmerized, and practically 3 hours went by fairly quickly. I just felt that the intermission needed to come a bit sooner. Maybe before we ended up in Wales would have been a good place to pause. I think even Shakespeare purists would enjoy this version. I'm giving this a happy face.
Jan Ewing here. Consider, how close is the street? Only 35% of us live from paycheck to paycheck. Ergo, if anything should go wrong, over 120 million people might face being homeless. The subject of Kate Wiley's new play, Sheltered, at the Cell through February 9th. Martha, sympathetically played by Jess Salguero, has volunteered for night duty at St. Joe's, a shelter for homeless women stuffed into a small church basement. It's early morning. The difficult Cassie has defied her and come in after curfew, ultimately causing the entire basement to erupt in anger. We see Martha, her homeless mother Helen, her precarious finances, her raw courage, subtle plot devices designed to provoke the questions that made this an important play. No rent, lost identity, dead spouse, all reasons for abruptly hitting the streets. Once the money's gone, you're erased. Do-gooders do putter. They donate designer dresses and velveted cheese, an insulting lack of understanding, but they don't care. To them, the players are ciphers, numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, in Kate Wiley's perceptive new play. The narrative is powerful, the ensemble first-rate. They both make one think, which theater is supposed to do. We're living in dark times and can no longer afford not to hear the homeless. Thanks to Liz Peterson's fine ensemble for giving them a voice. Happy face plus from me.
This is Sasha Clarke's review. So basically we agree together. So I'm going to add a little bit more on the Facebook page. But this is at 59 East 59th Street, Ken Ludwig's Dear Jack, Dear Louise, which is an intimate play inspired by his parents and their correspondence during World War II. When the show begins, Jack is nervously writing a letter of introduction, as his parents apparently suggested that he write to their good friend's daughter. A shidduch. As the play unfolds, we learn more and more about Jack and Louise and witness their blossoming friendship and fondness, as well as their evolving into the professions they have chosen. He is an army doctor, witnessing certain horrors in Oregon where he's stationed, certainly after Pearl Harbor, which is what makes it worse. And then Louise is back in New York City, is an inspiring actress who, of course, auditions all over the place and hopes for the best. Slowly, she gets larger and better parts. She also works at the stage door canteen, serving coffee and dancing with the soldiers who pass through. Now, Jack and Louise hope to meet when and if he ever gets his leave approved, so he can go home to visit his parents and spend a day in New York City along the way. With Mr. Ludwig's usual bravado, there are, of course, scenes of absolute hilarity, although Jack is somewhat staid compared to the effusive and dramatic Louise. Both Alexandra Fortin as Louise and Michael Liebhauser as Jack are excellent in bringing these characters to life in a lively way. Plays where the characters do not directly interact can seem quite static because they're just reading each other's letters. But the direction by Stephen Nakami avoids this problem. With their relationship developing, the characters react more and more strongly to the written epistles. There are also interjections from some friends and family members along the way. The director also quite cleverly has the actors switch sides of the stage briefly, which brings a new point of view to the action. Overall, this is a beautifully written, acted, and presented play with just the right amount of pathos, humor, and romance to make you both laugh and cry. Make sure to see this show during its pre-run. You will not be disappointed. And we both give this a happy face plus. And yes, I was quite like verklempt by the end of this show. It's just wonderful. Can't recommend it enough. Also at 59 East 59th Street is Robin Rice's Pecking Order, which is a magical look at bird life in New York City and how it affects certain citizens. Albert Jones is a doorman at the fancy Suffolk building where Pale Male and Lola, the famous red-tailed hawks, have taken up residence. Albert, a bird fancier, was delighted, along with the resident Bootsy Chestnut, a Broadway musical star. Sorrel Suffolk, whose father owned the building, had daddy issues as he ignored her, even though she was the face of a cosmetics firm and TikTok personality. Her solution to get her dad's attention was to get rid of the hawks. Would she succeed? A new doorman, Tony Russo, only cared about scoring money and succeeding in life and had a habit of mangling the English language in a very amusing way. Albert had a sister, Rosa, who was very sick and in need of money to operate on her gangrene. She was mean to everyone, especially her kindly caring neighbor, Helen. It's because she was scared and didn't want to admit what was happening to her. A little ray of hope flew down in the unlikely form of May, a lovely bird-like female who shy Albert took an immediate liking to, possibly because he figured out the truth behind her strange appearance. This is a charming, humorous, and very poignant play, beautifully acted by the ensemble. Happy face. Here we are with half of the talented family, Greg Kotis and Anne Halliday, and their kids. Milo's an actor, and India, the daughter, is writing plays in Los Angeles. So we're going to talk about their present-day stuff with Theater of the Apes, Necromancers of the Public Domain, and the Wayfaring Strangers Improvised Bluegrass. So you have a lot going on, so talk away.
We do an entirely improvised bluegrass musical once a month with some other improviser musicians, and we call that the Wayfaring Strangers. And we perform at the Pit, usually the last Sunday of the month at 7 o'clock. And we performed this past Sunday. Our suggestion was rain. And so we did a whole show that took place on Noah's Ark, and Noah and his wife, who in our world was named Rebecca, they were squabbling and fighting, and all the gods came in, not just Jehovah, but Ra and others to sort of counsel Noah and his wife. So anyway, those are a bunch of stuff that we are doing together. Get it all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, except for Necromancers,
right,
but that's kind of my baby.
What inspired you for that one, to find dusty old stories that no one ever heard of and turn them into like a variety show?
Oh, well, we were doing some things at the Tank, and Megan Finn, the artistic director, said, hey, if you ever want to do something here, like a project of your own, just come hit me with some ideas. And I was like, okay. And I had a bunch of ideas. And that was one that I came up with just like in 5 minutes kind of thing. And sometimes those are the ones that really have legs, are just the dumb little ideas that just kind of whoop, hit you fully baked. So the idea is that we find a book in the public domain, something that's not well remembered at all, something that probably hasn't been checked out of the New York Society Library, where I get all our books. I don't know, since the 1930s, 1940s, maybe, if at all. And then we take that book and we find a copy of it on the Internet Archive and enlist a bunch of performers, writers, comedians, singer-songwriters, clowns, burlesque dancers, whoever's around, to read the book, or at least give it a good hard skim, and then tell me they read the book. And then they make an act that's based on something that they read in the book, or it could be just a sentence. It could be an illustration from the book. It could be the whole thing or a chapter, or maybe they want to go a little bit further afield and delve into the author who was that. And then the idea is we all come together with the audience and we raise this long forgotten book up out of the vortex and celebrate it and make it this huge deal for one night only. And then we have a closing incantation where we slam it back down into the vortex. And hopefully the audience will leave feeling like they've learned something, and maybe like they've read a book that they actually haven't read.
Or actually want to read it. Because I remember I saw John O'Connor's Broadway Racketeer. That's when I saw. And it was like, whoa, where has this book been all my life? So you find really juicy, good books and you got coming up now at the Caveat in February. When is that?
And the book is going to be 1 hour with the movies and the talkies by Gilbert Seldes, who was quite a important cultural critic of the day. And I think most people don't know who he is now. I didn't know who he was.
Marion Seldes' father.
See, so you should come. But we did have one other woman that on social media today was like, I love Gilbert Seldes, and he had this book that inspired my book. So he is not quite as obscure as some of the authors. He's a great writer too. I'm really enjoying everything he has to say.
Theater folk know him. So it's going to be February what at Caveat?
12th, February 12th. We have an early Valentine's date.
Yay! And now for Urinetown. And for those of us who don't know, you should give the plot of Urinetown.
Urinetown takes place in a dystopian parallel universe in a unnamed city where there has been a terrible drought for 20 years. And to manage this drought, private toilets have been outlawed. So you can't have a toilet in your home. But the public bathrooms have been privatized, and there's one malevolent corporation called Urine Good Company that controls all the public bathrooms that everybody has to go to, and they charge exorbitant amounts to go. And so that's the conceit. That's all sort of established in the first few minutes of the show. And Urinetown, within this created world, centers on a love story between the assistant custodian at the poorest, filthiest urinal in town, and that's played by Jordan Fisher, who's this great leading man who's going to bring life to Bobby Strong. That's the name of his character. And his love interest is the daughter of the mogul who runs this malevolent corporation. So the daughter's her name is Hope Gladwell, and she's going to be played by Stephanie Styles, and she's brilliant. And Stephanie Styles' father, who is Caldwell B. Gladwell, who runs the malevolent corporation, is going to be played by Rainn Wilson, who is a brilliant actor and he's a TV star, but he's also a brilliant stage actor. Maybe best known for The Office, but he's done a million other things too.
One of my favorite people in it, Kiela Settle, taking Nancy Opal's role, who's in charge of keeping people in line at the urinals.
Yes, and she has come over from London, from the old world, from across the pond, expressly, I think, to perform in our show. And she has a voice to kill for. They've, believe it or not, this is a little bit of maybe a little bit of a spoiler, but they actually lifted Privilege to Pee by a step or a half step in a place, just to, as difficult and rangy and unreasonable as that song is, and that Nancy killed, it's just a little bit more unreasonable now. and Caileigh kills it as Penelope Pennywise.
I love the show. I'm so excited Encore is doing it, and I can't wait to continue seeing the Necromancer series, the Wayfarer series, the new one, and whatever you do, because I mean, you just have such a wicked sense of, both of you. I mean, Nurse, you did like Romeo and Juliet's Nurse point of view, The Truth About Santa, which was a nasty Santa story. Yeah. I mean, your stuff is always so grim and funny.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks for what you do for keeping, being such an integral part of theater culture here in New York City, and, being this essential booster for shows at all levels of production.
Yeah, that's really important. Thank you.
Love theater. What can I say? Thank you.
Sure.
So Broadwaycon is back. We're smack dab in the middle of it right now. So it's going on February 8th and February 9th still. And Charles Kirsch, who is this theater critic phenomenon, has these panels on Saturday of Theater Library, and Sunday we all know that Something is Eternal cast and creators of Broadway's Art Town. Old favorites return: Blizzard Party Line, cosplay, Broadway feud, karaoke, first look, sing-alongs, and much more. Featured musicals and plays this year are Wonderful World, Mean Girls Celebration, Yellowface with Frances Dewey, Shannon Tayo, and David Henry Hwang, Broadway Gone Too Soon, Tammy Faye, Swept Away, Lempica, and the 25th anniversary of Seussical with some of the original people. And some of the featured people we're going to see are Mandy Gonzalez, Cabaret with Joe Iconis, Broadway book writers Winnie Holzman, Robert L. Freeman, and John Weidman, who talks about Sondheim. And then going from stage to screen, you've got Emily Burgle, Krista Rodriguez, and Jonathan Burke. Interesting panels are photographers on Broadway, New York theater indie scene, off and off Broadway, puppetry on Broadway, Ben West's The Incomplete History of the American Musical in 60 Minutes or Less. And then, practically speaking, jobs. Discover great jobs on Broadway that you never learned about in school that make the industry thrive. So maybe you'll do some networking and have a good time and dress up, and can't wait to see you all there.
At Teatro Circolo, First Marie Ensemble and Cymbeline present Bodas de Blood, which is an adaptation of Garcia Lorca's 1932 rural Spanish tragedy. Celeste Morate adapted and directed it. The play concerns an elaborate wedding involving the whole village that goes tragically wrong when the bride's ex-lover abducts her. The bridegroom, the only son of his mother left after his father and brother were killed years ago, she's had to be both mother and father to the boy, and the casting of the male actor brings home this point. The bad boy ex-lover, Leonardo, has spent much of his time outside the bride's window, causing great distress to his wife. The whole of the village get involved in the spirit of the wedding through much choral singing and dancing. The live percussionists seem to create the heartbeat of the village. Indeed, I really liked the group singing and dancing. I was also very impressed by Ryan Schaefer as the dangerous young man Leonardo. His intensity reminded me of a young Paul Newman. Kudos also go to Eric Alexander as the mother. He created a strong characterization and avoided drab campiness. Of the actresses, I was impressed by Stephanie Delvina as the angry forsaken wife and Betty Amelia as the bride's maid, whose singing and dancing showed her to be more enthusiastic about the wedding than the bride. I missed a lot because I'm not at all fluent in Spanish. Subtitles would have helped a lot. When I got home and read the Wikipedia posting about the play, I understood that I had no idea about some of the characters. I didn't know that Death and the Moon were personified, And there were some woodsmen in the woods when Leonardo and the bride were attempting to escape. I had to give this mixed faces because there was much that I liked, but also much that I neither understood nor liked. So mixed faces.
So our next show will be February 22nd. Here's our theater listings of shows we couldn't get in. Closing February 9th, Beyond Doomsday Scrolling at John Combs Stage at ATA. Closing February 22nd is Slamdance Garage at Oi Group at Bushwick Start. Closing February 23rd, Kowalski's been extended about Brando Williams Streetcar. No Reservation at La Mama. The Antiquities at Playwrights Horizon. Some short runs you had The Last Time I Saw Caileigh, going February 13th and 15th at the Tank. Raise the Page, Uplift the World at Abingdon Theater Company, February 15th and 16th. And Queen of the Mist is going to go on at Montclair State University. I love that show. And special event Hotsy Totsy Burlesque, tribute to ladies of Disney. That's going to be at the Slipper Room Thursday, February 13th at 8 o'clock. Now, closing February 16th is Eureka Day that Mark and I saw off Broadway. I haven't seen it on Broadway yet, so that review will be on the Facebook page. So Mark said, Jonathan Spector's Eureka Day is a radically progressive primary school that runs by consensus. A problem arises when a mumps outbreak pits the pro-vaxxers against the anti-vaxxers. Don, a beloved teacher, one of the founders of the school, seems to be the leader of the executive committee and is often the voice of reason and moderation. Don explains that one of the school's fundamental principles is that no child or parent is a villain. This also functions as the framework for the play itself. The committee wants to focus on the school's response to this mumps-vax crisis with a virtual town hall using Facebook Live. The Facebook response of the school community veer wildly off course and careen toward rancor and its hysterical scene. And I said, just like any committee or board meeting, people interrupt and don't listen. Yet at the same time, they are exhibiting rude and mansplaining behavior. They are trying to bend over backwards to be politically correct and inclusive over the minutest details. Their ethnic category on the admissions forms alone seems to be practically 2 pages long. How far will you go to protect your kid at the expense of others? What difference do all the facts and statistics mean if it is your kid and your experiences? This show is brilliant, it's funny, and it's so timely right now. Now, Ben and I saw, and we'll talk about this on our next show, Joy Behar's My First Ex-Husband, about women who subjugate themselves to make their husband happy, but it's not reciprocated. We saw it with Tova Felcha, Susie Essman, Joy Behar, and Adrian Seymour. There'll be a new cast February 23rd. Check it out on their website.